A new controversial signing for TNA has been revealed, and we're going to talk about WWE shutting down a huge match on the independent scene. And yes, we are going to talk about Ring of Honor's new TV deal. Welcome back to the Ango Show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm super excited about this. Let's talk about the new Ring of Honor TV deal. There is said to be multiple stations in talks regarding a TV deal with Ring of Honor. And what's actually really interesting is that it looks like it could be announced relatively soon. As you guys know, I have been speculating with Chris Jericho holding the World Championship for Ring of Honor. It's only a matter of time until they get that TV deal. Now, some people will argue that it doesn't matter who your world champion is, but it does matter. Who your world champion is and what you're doing when trying to pitch a TV deal matters. Chris Jericho is a recognizable name. That is clearly the reason why Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree are on Ring of Honor television, especially with Jericho holding the world title. But according to Dave Meltzer, there are multiple networks that are in talks about a potential weekly show for Ring of Honor. And it was further noted that this was one of the reasons why Jericho was made the world champion during these negotiations. Now, with that being said, I'm excited about this. I think, personally, watch Honor, Ring of Honor, Honor Club, whatever you want to call it. I think it's relatively a failure in my opinion. It's to have a paywall for Ring of Honor TV at this point in time, it just simply doesn't make sense. It's not a bad thing though. Like Ring of Honor getting a TV deal is really good for the industry. It doesn't have to be a massive TV deal. It could be True TV, it could be Tubi, it could be Nickelodeon. Wherever it's accessible, that's like, as long as it's more accessible than where it's currently at, that's all that genuinely matters. Now, I think Ring of Honor actually has a lot of potential. If Tony Khan could separate the two brands and truly give Ring of Honor its own brand and its own identity with its own roster and its own writing team, this could be really good for AEW. Listen, I'll be very real with you guys. There is a potential possibility that I go back to doing live reviews at night versus day streams. If Ring of Honor is on Thursdays on TV, I will add it to the list of shows where I do a stream for sure. I definitely see that being a possibility. So to me, it excites me. I think it's really good for the industry. I don't think ROH is incredibly valuable right now, but I think it's a lot better of a position that it's currently in than what it was with Sinclair Broadcasting owning the company. So you're not going to hear me hate on ROH. At the end of the day, I want to see it succeed. Let's see what happens. Okay, guys, WWE shut down this match. Chelsea Green, Matt Cardona in GCW, at least according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, they have said that WWE has nixed the idea of a Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green match in which they would take on Joey Janela and Megan Bayne for the Hammerstein Ballroom on January 19th. Now, if this is actually true, this is like a really big deal because WWE is working with GCW, but you have to be wondering why WWE would potentially shut down this idea. Now, there's a couple reasons. One, there are rumors that Chelsea Green could very well become the first ever women's United States champion. So that's obviously a very big rumor. That's obviously a very big deal. Also, WWE is in the business of protecting their talent. And yes, they are working with indie companies. And yes, talent are working with indie companies. And yes, WWE is giving people a little bit more freedom. But for Chelsea Green to go to Hammerstein Ballroom, this event is relatively close to the Royal Rumble. Chelsea Green's the United States champion. If she becomes the United States champion, I should say. You don't really want to further that risk, especially in GCW. Chelsea Green has done quite a few insane spots. You just don't want to risk it. And I can understand why WWE in this particular situation might want to hold back the idea of doing this match. Now, I also want to point out something. Matt Cardona is currently on AEW Ring of Honor programming. So, I don't think WWE has an issue per se with WWE talent working GCW, which also features AEW talent. But also for a WWE star to be tag teaming with somebody who is technically on AEW television. We don't even know if he's signed to AEW. I could see WWE raising an eyebrow to that idea. And then also, I think, too, you just got to go back to the risk. And, you know, I don't know if WWE is really in the business of being that risky. And that's okay. Like, that's completely fine. I think it would be a really, really fun match. I feel like Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona, obviously, real-life married couple. They've done some really cool stuff in GCW before Chelsea Green returned to the WWE. But right now, Chelsea Green's got a lot of momentum. And as I said, there's rumors that she's potentially going to be the first ever women's U.S. champion. WWE has done a really good job of building her up. That's their investment. That's who they've put money behind. So if they want to protect their investment, it makes a lot of sense. I'm a huge fan of Chelsea Green. Always have been. From her days in Impact to you know what she's doing now in WWE, I just feel like she's always been a really good talent. And for whatever reason, she's blocked me on Twitter, which is completely fine. I've never said anything negative. I'm always going to be a fan of Chelsea Green. I always think that's funny that she blocked me. But at the same time, too, big fan of her work, and I'm excited to see what ends up happening for her future. And that brings us to controversy. TNA. TNA. I love you guys so much, but what is this? Tessa Blanchard is set for a major TNA return. And Dave Meltzer might be right here. He says the belief is that Blanchard has signed with TNA, which explains why she has not been in CMLL the last few weeks. Also, according to Meltzer, Blanchard's return to TNA will likely involve a short program with Jordynne Grace, who is rumored to be headed to the WWE when her current contract expires. The belief is that Tessa will debut in Atlanta, do a quick program with Jordynne Grace, and then... yeah, basically, it sounds like Tessa has signed with TNA. Controversial for many reasons. From an in-ring perspective, from a wrestling perspective, Tessa was a very, very, very good asset to TNA, to Impact Wrestling, from an in-ring perspective. Now, it is well documented about some of the issues that people have had with Tessa backstage, things that she has said. And listen, people always deserve a second chance. You know, if Tessa made amends with everybody and all the people she offended, you know, forgive her, then, you know, that's a good thing, obviously. But I don't even recall ever seeing Tessa like apologize for the controversies. And it sucks, you know, it sucks because I think from an in-ring perspective, from a wrestling perspective, she is such a great talent. But I think the backstage stuff was a really big issue. And I think it's the biggest reason why AEW and WWE strayed away from her. So unfortunately, it is what it is. I don't know how TNA came to this conclusion. Obviously, they were looking for somebody to replace Jordynne Grace. I don't know if this was the right call. But at the same time, too, we'll see what happens. And you know, if Tessa is better now and she's, you know, sorry for her actions and people want to forgive her, that's up to the people. You know, for me personally, it's just a tricky situation. You know what I mean? It's a lot of great wrestlers out there turned out to be pieces of shit behind the scenes. And I don't know Tessa personally, so I'm not going to call her a piece of shit. But I do think there's a lot of people who are still very upset with her and they don't really feel like she was ever sorry. And obviously, I can understand why people are frustrated. And yeah, it's kind of shocking that TNA decided to do this. So we'll see what it leads to.